In alphabetical order, the first candidate is Ralph Abraham. He's from Alto, Louisiana. He is a veterinarian and a doctor and has degrees in both capacities from Louisiana State University. He, like Governor Edwards, celebrated a birthday last Monday. He is 65 years old. I don't know if there was a dual party, but somehow I have my doubts. But anyway, happy birthday to you, Congressman Abraham. And the next candidate in alphabetical order is Governor John Bel Edwards. His birthday is September 16, 1966. He is 53. He, unlike his two challengers, is a Democrat. They are Republicans. Governor Edwards served 2 terms in the Louisiana House, being elected in 2007. He has degrees from West Point and from LSU's Law Center. And the newcomer is Eddie Risponi, a businessman who at the age of 70 is making his first foray into elective politics as a candidate for the highest office in the state. He owns one of the largest contractors companies in the state of Louisiana and has so for the last 30 years. His birth date, January 21, 1949, and he is a native of Baton Rouge, grew up here, and is a graduate of Louisiana State University. The candidates will have 2 minutes for opening questions. There will be 1 minute for responses to our questions, and then they will have a 1-minute close. And we start with Congressman Abraham. Congressman?
Well, thanks for doing this. It's always a pleasure to be with you guys. For those that don't know me, I did grow up in Northeast Louisiana on a very small farm. It's where Diane and I live now. We raised our children and certainly have our grandchildren come see us there a lot. I have been very blessed and honored in Louisiana to serve as a soldier, a farmer, a pilot who still flies search and rescues with the Coast Guard Auxiliary, a veterinarian, as you just heard, and a family doctor that serves some of the poorest of the poor in the Louisiana Delta. And as most of you know now, I'm hopefully a conservative Christian voice in the U.S. House of Representatives in Washington, D.C. I am the only candidate that has been endorsed by the NRA. I am the only candidate that has always opposed Common Core. I am the only candidate of these 3 that support the death penalty. And I am the only candidate that has stood side by side, worked with, and voted with our great president to lower taxes, help our veterans, and move this country in a very, very positive manner. Unlike our state, unfortunately, our current governor is killing our state. We're last. We are 50th out of 50th. We don't have any jobs, so we've got to incentivize businesses. We've got to lower taxes. We've got to rebuild our infrastructure. And until we do that, we will continue to be at the bottom of the barrel. We're Louisiana. We're much better than that. And I'm just tired of losing as a state. We have a unique culture. We have people that actually want to go to work, and we could be in the top tier. So again, with me as your next governor, Louisiana will start winning. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank y'all for doing this and allowing us to have the opportunity to come before the press club. You know, it's already started. My opponents are going to distort my record. They're going to give you a lot of misinformation, but facts are facts, and they are stubborn. There was a $2 billion budget deficit the day I became governor, the largest in the state's history. There's a $500 million surplus. The unemployment rate today is 4.3%. It was 6.4% the day I became governor. The economy in the state of Louisiana, measured by GDP, is the largest it has ever been in our state's history. It's growing at the 10th fastest rate in the country, #1 in the Southeast. $10,000, that's the amount of the teacher pay raise, the first one given in 10 years as we start investing in our children. Again, 450,000 Louisianans with health insurance who didn't have it before I became governor. One of the ways we addressed that deficit, by the way, saving over $300 million. And now the uninsured rate in Louisiana is the lowest it has ever been, and it is lower than the national average. 170 major economic development projects since I've been governor. $41 billion of capital investment, 34,000 jobs created. Look, those are the facts. They are stubborn. But Louisiana is much better off than we were 4 years ago by every relevant metric. And the people of Louisiana know it. You know, these gentlemen pine for the days of Bobby Jindal. Louisiana does not. We are not going back. We've come too far. And yes, there's more work to do. But I'm absolutely confident our best days are ahead of us. Despite all that they're going to do to mislead and to distort my record, if we would just refuse to be Washington, D.C., and continue to work together, Republicans and Democrats, putting Louisiana first, our best days are ahead of us.
Well, thank y'all for having us, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today. I'm going to give you a little brief history about myself. You know, I grew up not far from here in North Baton Rouge. We had a family of 9. My dad was a blue-collar worker, and he worked at Standard Oil. Back then when they came here in Louisiana, that's where they established themselves. I've had a job since I was 15 years old, working construction. Worked every summer during school year, during high school. Then I worked my way through college and got a degree in construction. Worked construction all over this country for 14 years, and about 30 years ago, next month, my brother and I started the company we have today. We've been extremely blessed. We started that company in my living room with 3 of us, and today we employ almost 4,000 families across the South. We know we are blessed. We know what it takes to build the jobs. We know what it takes to work with job creators. We know how to fill those jobs with Louisiana citizens, and that's why I'm running. You know, Louisiana, believe it or not, Louisiana is last in our economy in the United States. We're the only state in the country that is losing jobs. We need a job creator. We need someone that has serious business skills, someone that can turn the state around. And that's what I'm here for. We need to do something different. We've had politicians now on both sides of the aisle, and we're still on the bottom, folks. We need to do something different, and it starts by electing a different kind of governor. And that's why I'm in this race. I'm in this race because I believe we can be the #1 state in the South when it comes to jobs and opportunities, and I think I'm the only one that can do that. And that's why I'm in this race, and because our children and grandchildren need a future in Louisiana. Thank you for listening.
I will ask a question, and then we will hear from our esteemed group of journalists, including Mr. Bridges, the Pulitzer Prize winner, who just implored me to tell a joke. But this is a serious time in our state. I think we know that. And the major distinction among the candidates is that the governor is the only Democrat elected in statewide office. He's being challenged by 2 Republicans. And the question for each of them, starting with Governor Edwards, is why are you a member of the political party that you are affiliated with? And have you ever been a member of the other party? And if so, why did you switch? Governor?
Thank you, Jim. I've never switched. I registered as a Democrat back when I was, I guess, just before my 18th birthday. And it's because I believe that we have an obligation to do what we can on behalf of our brothers and sisters, especially those who are most vulnerable. And, you know, we can't do everything for everybody, both because it would cost too much and, quite frankly, it wouldn't be proper. But where we can help, we ought to do that. And we ought to lift up especially the middle class and those who have not traditionally had opportunities in the past to get ahead. I still believe that there is a role for government in doing these things, and that we are brothers and sisters to folks around the state of Louisiana when we actually lift them up and try to make their lives better and move forward together. And that's why I've been a Democrat, and I still am. And don't think in fact, I know I've never changed parties. So that's the answer to your question there, Jim.
Well, I have to say that I started out as a Democrat at 18 years old, and it didn't take long to change to a Republican once I got a job and started working around the state and the country. I will tell you that there's a distinct difference between a Republican today and a Democrat. And I like to put it this way. You know, we want to teach people to fish and not just make them dependent on us. And that's a big difference. We care about our people. We're going to make sure that we take care of the ones that need help. But we also want to give them a lift up. And that's why I've been involved with education and training, because I really believe that's what we need. We need people to be more valuable to themselves and to their families so they can help themselves. And that's what I'll do, create jobs and fill those jobs with Louisiana citizens. And the ones that need skill upgrade, we will do that. Thank you.
I also registered as a Democrat at 18 because I simply didn't know better. Now I do. And look, I am so proud to be in the Republican Party. We are pro-life. We are pro-gun. We are pro-fiscal responsibility. And we are about lifting those, giving a hand up to those that need that extra boost in life to get that good job and raise that family. You see where the Republican Party has taken us on the national level. We've got an economy that's booming under this president. We've got 7 million plus jobs we cannot fill because jobs are abounding. We have an economy that has GDPs now of record-setting stats, and we are just going straight up. Unfortunately, we're not seeing it in the state because of our legal climate, our tax climate, and our leadership. Thank you.
Governor Jindal, who was governor of our state for 8 years and the predecessor to Governor Edwards, and his impact and the assessment by our candidates of Governor Jindal's 2 terms. Mr. Risponi.
Yes. Thank you. First of all, this race, Bobby Jindal's not running for governor. I'm running for governor. So to speak about the taxes and the way we did the budget before, I'm the only candidate up here that says we need to have a constitutional convention. I'm the only candidate that says we need a sea change in how we do things. And so that's where we're going to go with this. We have to fix our budgets. We have to fix our Constitution so the elected officials, the people you send there to the Capitol, can do their job. Right now, they can't do their job. We have a book of statutes, not a Constitution. So we're going to make a difference change there. Again, I'm the only one that's going to step up and say we need to make a sea change if we want to lead this country. There's no reason why we're not #1 in the South when it comes to jobs and opportunities. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to change it and make us the best we can be. Thank you.
The Bobby Jindal that I knew very early in his career was for less government, less taxes, more fiscal accountability, more fiscal responsibility, and more personal responsibility. That does espouse just what we talked on the last question, and that's the Republican mantra, the Republican theme. And whether it's Bobby Jindal, whether it's me as your next governor, those tenets, those core principles that I just listed, I think are good for the country, and it's certainly good for the state. Thanks.
Look, Governor Jindal took office with $1.5 billion in surplus, left me a $2 billion deficit. The way he ran his budget was the most dishonest, gimmicky, smoke and mirrors. And look, we actually plundered the trust funds and spent $3 billion in trust funds over the same 8 years. That money's gone. And they still cut higher education more than any other state in the nation. They raised tuition more than any other state in the nation. And our state was deep in the ditch 4 years ago. Make no mistake about it. And we are doing so much better because we've jettisoned all those irresponsible practices of the past. We make sure that we're responsible in the way that we budget. And we have not put a single one-time dollar in the budget lined up against recurring expenditures. And as a result, Moody's is taking note. Our outlook in Louisiana is positive for the first time since 2015. Indeed, it is.
The question is about climate change and the oil and gas industry's culpability, if any, and we'll start with Congressman Abraham.
Well, one of my professions is a farmer, and I think we all know that environmental stewardship, protecting our environment, should be at top tier. As far as our coastline is concerned, we know it's an existential issue. We know that we've got to get it right, and we know that there are certainly controversies about how to get to that point. Personally, I want to stop these legacy lawsuits. I think they're frivolous against our oil and gas industry, and actually make them part of the solution. I've talked to most of them, not all of them. They want to be at the table. They want to be part of building the coast back. They have the technology, and I think as a governor, then we should certainly bring them to the table. We are the sportsman's paradise, but look what's happening. We are losing fishermen and we're losing oarsmen because of this, and we've got to get this right every day. But oil and gas can be part of the solution. Thanks.
Thank you, Sue, for the question. First of all, with respect to climate change, Louisiana really does have an important role to play, because every time a coal-powered plant is taken offline in favor of gas, the climate benefits, and Louisiana does as well, and that's why our natural gas production is back to almost record levels from 2012. We also have more coastal restoration and protection projects underway right now than at any point in our history. And one of the first things I was able to do with the first budget surplus was actually repay the money to the Coastal Trust Fund that had been swept out by Governor Jindal, plus some, to make sure that they didn't get behind. And you know, the litigation that Representative Abraham talks about actually started in 2013 with coastal parishes filing lawsuit long before I was governor. And I've not filed a single lawsuit against them. Congressman Abraham has. He's filed it for damage to his property caused by oil and gas interests. That's the fact.
I'll address the global warming. I think we all have to play our part in global warming and do what we can. It's not just global warming, but it's environmental safety. I know our industries have did tremendous amount of work over the last decades to do something with the environmental side of it. I know we have a coastal plan that we're working on. We have to work together on that. I think going in there and suing the oil and gas companies and trying to extort money from them and not put it back into the environment is not the right approach. We can't have plaintiff attorneys working on contingency fees. We need to have our Department of Natural Resources doing their job with the permitting. We haven't looked at one permit in the last 4 years. Not one permit has been looked at. One of my first executive orders is to tell the Department of Natural Resources, do your job. Look at these permits that the lawyers are saying we didn't follow. That would be one of the first things I would do. We're going to work together to solve this, and we're going to protect our coast and our environment.
It's about criminal justice and the reform package that passed and where it stands right now. Governor?
Thank you for the question. As you all know, I come from a fourth-generation law enforcement family. Public safety is absolutely priority number one. Criminal justice reform was essential because we were paying $700 million a year to have the nation's highest incarceration rate, and we were not safer as a result of it. So we borrowed strategies that had been successfully implemented in other southern states, implemented them in 2017 in a package of 10 bills, 7 authored by Republicans, 2 by Democrats, 1 by an independent. And we are saving money, we're reinvesting the savings as we were supposed to, and we are safer. In the first full year since criminal justice reform was implemented, the number of murders in cities across Louisiana has plummeted. In New Orleans, the lowest since 1971, and they're on track right now to be a third below that this year. Similarly, we're doing the same things in Baton Rouge, in Monroe, and Shreveport, and Lafayette, and Alexandria. So I'm going to make sure that we continue to maintain our posture with respect to criminal justice reform. We will tweak it as necessary should that become something that we need to do. Thank you.
I think our criminal justice reform that we put forth was a good attempt. It was an attempt to fix things, but the rollout was where we had a problem. We had an administration that was most interested in lowering numbers and not being prepared to do what needed to be done, and we had some dangerous people that were released that should not have been released. And so what I intend to do is work with the sheriffs and the DAs and the judges and look at that and make sure that we do it right this time. That's what a business person does. You don't roll something out and make sure that everything is ready to go and everybody's on the same page, and you do it for the right reason. And that is, first of all, safety. And then the people that come out, they have to be ready to go back into society. Many were not ready to go back into society. We have to go back and fix that. Thank you.
John Bill Edwards' rollout was a disaster. You got violent criminals that have been released, that have killed, that have raped, that have assaulted after they have been released early. That's going to stop. We are going to get the players at the table that actually have that decision-making process, and we will get criminal justice reform where it needs to be. We've got to get the sheriffs, we've got to get the DAs, we've got to get everybody that has a card in the game talking and coming up with a solution that actually works. And don't worry so much about the money. We worry about public safety. And to the governor's previous thing about suing an oil company, Governor, you know and I know, it was a subcontractor that was digging a ditch, laying a pipe on one of our farms that wouldn't come clean up their mess. It was resolved without any court action. So please, let's get the facts straight. Thank you.
What are the 3 policies that you would enact if you became governor?
Well, let me start with this. The day after I'm elected, I'm going to work. And I'm going to go to work, and like I said earlier, I'm going to contact all the oil and gas people in manufacturing since come back to Louisiana, stay here, we're going to work with you. Then I'm going to let all these parishes know that we're ready to go to work. But the other thing is I'm going to go out and recruit good, talented people. That's what business people do. We're going to go out and recruit good, talented people over these agencies. We're going to run these agencies like they should be run, like we do in business, with programs, with plans, with a budget, with transparency. That's going to be happening. So when I get sworn in, they're going to go to work. Those are kind of things that business people do. They make plans, they recruit talented people, and turn the state around. As far as policy, we're going to respect our citizens' tax dollars, and we're going to be efficient and effective. That's what I'll do. And we're going to move forward with a Constitutional Convention to turn this ship around. We need some help there. It's not going to be playing around the edges like we've done with the career politicians over the decades.
Look, everybody should take note that the District Attorneys Association supported each and every one of the 10 bills that I signed into law. And just last week, I received the endorsement of the Louisiana Sheriff's Association. So I work with all of those folks every single day. The next 4 years, we're going to maintain the momentum that we have. We're going to make sure Louisiana doesn't go deep into the ditch again so that we can continue to invest in our critical priorities. We just made new investments in education for the first time in a decade. That is going to continue because our economy is going to continue to grow. We're going to continue to create jobs in the state of Louisiana, more opportunity and more prosperity. The #1 new priority for investment in education in a second term will be early childhood education, something I've been saying for quite a while now, because it's incredibly important to our future. That's how we're going to achieve better educational outcomes, and that's how we're going to reduce the achievement gaps that have plagued our state for too long.
There's an old physics equation that says momentum equals mass times velocity. I assure you, Governor, we're going backwards in a train if you put that physics equation down. Look, as a governor, we're going to reverse the ITEP changes. We're going to get businesses back to hire, to just stay, to build what businesses do. We will revamp the waste, fraud, and abuse in our Medicaid expansion. And day one, I'll call a special session to address infrastructure, taxes, and budget reform. And to that point, that's how we grow this governorship. And if we do not allow someone like me to be elected, then we continue to be 50th out of 50. We continue to have no jobs, and we continue to be dead last in the country. Again, we're much, much better than that.
What is your stance on Common Core as far as preserving or reversing what is now established law? Lanny Keller asked that question. Congressman.
On day one, hour two, that's another thing we will address directly. I have always been against Common Core. Again, I'm an objective data guy. We are 48th or 49th, depending on which poll you look, in education. If it was working, we should be in the top tier, but it's not. We've got to let the teachers teach, the parents parent, and the parents empower their children to go to the school that is a passing school. If you're going to a failing school, you need to be able to have that choice to go to a school that can actually give you a good education. The governor mentioned early childhood education, and I think every candidate up here will say that is a priority one. Unfortunately, this governor says he's a priority, but it's only in an election year that he came out with a plan and put a little money to that. So I will make it a priority day one. We will fund it all the way up through our TOPS, which I will also fully fund. Thank you.
You know, it's only in Congress where you can actually spend money you don't have. So until we turned the economy around and started running surpluses, there were not investments to be made in early childhood education. But as soon as we did that, we invested $20 million more this year than we did last year on early childhood education. Look, education is critically important to our state and to our future. Our young people depend upon it. And by the way, there are some things that we're doing well. 81% graduation rate is the highest in the country. I'm sorry, highest in the state's history. We've greatly expanded opportunities for dual enrollment. The Common Core debate is one that really is over. Now, I don't hear much about it across the state at all. I believe we need to focus on just the essentials of educating our young people, making sure we have appropriate standards in place, and then we enable our schools and our teachers to teach in order to meet those standards. That's what we have to do. It's not rocket science. And I'm going to continue to invest in education heavily in my second term.
See, I've always been against the federal government taking over our schools, and I'll stand with that. But folks, we're last. Something has to be done. And I've always believed that we had to improve our education system. Common Core was not the answer. The Obama administration got Common Core and shamefully tried to incentivize everybody to install Common Core. At that point, we backed away and we said, we are going to root Common Core out of here. And we've been against it ever since. And as governor, I'm encouraging everyone, look at your schools, look at your districts. That's where it's at. You have a voice there. And go make sure that we're not doing something that we let the federal government run our schools. We're going to support the teachers, we're going to support the parents. And then the only other subject I'd like to bring up, the lawsuit against all companies by Congressman, the big deal about that was mental anguish. It wasn't about fixing his property as well, but it was mental anguish. That's what plaintiff attorneys do, not Congressman. Thank you.
The question is about reparations, and Governor Edwards has the first response.
Thank you. So reparations is not something that I have studied or am considering. I am focused, however, on making sure that we have increased access to opportunity and prosperity. Increasingly, that's more important in education than anywhere else because it is synonymous with opportunity and prosperity. And so whether it's investing in education, again, with our HBCUs, increasing dual enrollment opportunities, making sure that we're fully funding TOPS and GO grants, our need-based aid for higher education, making sure that more people have access to health care so they can remain healthy and actually working, able to support themselves and their families and to just do better, have a higher quality of life. Those are the things that I'm focused on every day as governor.
To answer your question, I really haven't given that much thought, but I've been, over the last 25 years, giving everybody an opportunity to have a career, a good education, and a job. And as a business person, I'm going to continue to do that. And I've worked very, very hard over those 25 years to make sure that we had an education that would give them the skill sets to get a good job, irregardless of their background, their zip code, or whatever it is. In particular, the last 12 years, I've done everything possible to make sure that every child in Louisiana has an opportunity to get a quality education. I'm going to continue to do that. Create jobs and fill them with our citizens is how you have to fix that.
So I'll go back to where I live and where I've practiced medicine my entire life, and that's in the Louisiana Delta, with the African-American community being a large part of that community. They are my patients, they are my friends. I go to church with them, I go to get groceries with them. And I've had these discussions with many in this particular community. They're not asking for handouts. They're just asking for the opportunity. These small rural towns that populate Louisiana, they're not there. Again, I go back to the jobs that we do not have as a state. All they're asking for is the opportunity to raise their children in an environment that has a little bit of disposable income after they pay their bills. So I'll answer the question directly, unlike these two gentlemen that have not. I am against reparations. Thank you.
What specific policies as far as Medicaid expansion would the candidates enact as governor?
Well, we rolled out the Medicaid expansion and to help people who need it the most. And what's happening, we have a system now that's unsustainable. And if we don't fix it, it's going to go broke. And then we're going to lose the safety net for the people who need it the most. So as a business person, I'm going in there to get transparency and make sure that we have no waste and it's not any abuse, because we have to protect this safety net for our citizens that need it the most. And that's what I'll do. It's what a business person does. We have no transparency. We don't zero transparency on where the dollars are being spent. How do you manage that? And then we put a part-time doctor over the largest agency we have. Part-time. How are we going to get that done? We don't need that. We need somebody who has business skills, so we can go in there and do it the right way and make sure it's efficient so we can save it for the people who need it the most.
Well, I am that general practitioner that takes that Medicaid expansion patient, and as I've said over and over, I don't have access to the specialists I need. I don't have access to the prescriptions that I need. So the policies, look, I've always said that the first day, then I'm going to fire the secretary. She's a Planned Parenthood operative, and I want her gone. We're going to get 1,600 of those $1,000, $100,000 people that are making over $100,000 a year off the roll, along with everyone that's ineligible off, so that those that actually need the service have the service and can use the service effectively. And for the first time ever, the patients, I've talked to many thousands of them, they actually want to invest in their health care. They want to have say. We're going to let them have a seat at the table too and actually make some decisions that make their lives better.
Medicaid expansion is absolutely sustainable, not just as a program, but it helped us address big needs at the statewide level. The $2 billion deficit was addressed partly through savings, most of which came through Medicaid expansion because it cost the state less for someone to have Medicaid with no more than 10 cents on the dollar, rather than being uninsured that costs 40 cents on the dollar that comes from the general fund. The Medicaid is paid for by statutory dedications, money we wouldn't have but for the fact that we expanded Medicaid. So it is absolutely sustainable. Louisiana is one of 8 states recognized by the Trump administration for implementing best practices to root out waste, fraud, and abuse in the Medicaid system. The other thing that we've done is I have invested in a state-of-the-art system for eligibility determinations, replacing one that was decades old that all of my predecessors decided to leave in place. This is a much more robust system that ties into more state and federal databases real-time to ascertain eligibility. And we're going to continue to move forward in that manner.
Matt asks about the deduction on federal income taxes for state taxes and the stances of the candidates. Congressman?
Yeah, the way it stands now, because we've lowered taxes on the federal level because of Trump's tax cut and jobs plan, which I actually voted for and was proud to do it, then you're deducting less on your state tax and you're paying more in state taxes. So the governor can talk about the surplus that he's getting, but it's still taxpayer money. Whether you pay it to the state, whether you pay it to the federal, it's still our money. So yes, you've got that disconnect there that has to happen. And if we don't allow businesses to boom, if we don't have more jobs, more people paying into the system, bringing those taxes up, then we're going to lose again and again and again.
We raised taxes. Our budget is $7 billion more than when we started this administration. We raised taxes $5 billion. I don't know if I need to say any more about that. We have to do something different with taxing the people. But I want to go back to the Medicaid expansion. We found out, the auditors here today, we found out we had $85 million of waste in there, people that were not eligible. Sure, we went back and fixed it. But that's what politicians do. They find out that we made a serious mistake by hiring someone that's part-time to head up the largest agency. Business people don't do that. We make sure we're prepared to do that. We still, to this day, do not have transparency. We don't know where we're spending money in the largest agency we have. We have the Louisiana checkbook. We're supposed to show where every dollar is spent. To this day, it's not implemented. We should have had it done in 3 months. No, we kicked the can down the road because we don't want citizens to know where we're spending their money.
So the answer is yes, I would support that, and I have supported it. In fact, I asked that we get rid of that deduction in favor of lowering rates so that that change would actually be revenue neutral. I think it would be helpful to have nominal rates and our actual rates, effective rates, I should say, be the same. And that's one of the things that we promoted coming out of the task force that actually studied and made recommendations. The other thing I want to point out is when I became governor, the state of Louisiana had the 5th lowest combined state and local tax burden. Today, we have the 5th lowest combined state and local tax burden. That's how moderate the changes were, and as we were able to do so last year, we actually lowered the tax burden by more than $600 million precisely because our economy is growing and the revenue is coming in, and we were able to make the investments that we've made and still run a surplus. And I like the fact that they keep talking about the surplus, because if this election comes down to whether surpluses are better than deficits, I like my chances.
Just along those lines, we've had much discussion among the candidates here and elsewhere about the deficits and surpluses and what happened 8 years ago and where we are now. But at the same time, the federal government is running $1 trillion deficit. And what concerns, if any, do you have as a candidate regarding the federal deficit and how it affects Louisiana? Mr. Risponi?
That's a really good question. That is, someone is an outsider, someone is protecting, doing this for our grandchildren and great-grandchildren, because that's what we're doing. I am tired of hearing of politicians on the state level say, well, it's federal money. That is your great-grandchildren's livelihood. That's going to be taxed on them. We just can't take that as funny money. And that's what we have to do. We have to be responsible for all the money, the federal and the state money. That's what we do as business people. We're not going to continue to say, well, that's federal money. We raised the budget. We're $5 billion more over federal dollars. Along with that, we have to spend another $1 billion of our money. But that $5 billion is our great-grandchildren. Don't take it for granted. And I'm not going to take it for granted. We're going to run this state efficiently and effectively for our great-children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. Thank you.
As a U.S. Congressman, now look, I have stood on many a stump and said that our federal debt is a national security issue. It's unsustainable. It puts us in a tough position globally when we deal with other countries, and it certainly puts us on a precarious position when we deal with businesses in our own country. But what I'll ask you to do is look at my voting record. I generally vote against anything that raises our debt. Again, I go back to who we are. I'm fiscally conservative, and I believe in balancing a checkbook, and I also believe in showing the checkbook and to see where your money's going. Thanks.
You know, I think the question really gets at the crux of the difference between state government and federal government. We actually have to work together here because we deliver a balanced budget every single year, which means tough decisions have to be made, and you've got to do the hard work necessary to achieve bipartisan consensus, especially when you have a Republican majority in the House and in the Senate. And all of the bills necessary to right our ship and create the stability we needed actually needed a 2/3 vote. And at the end of the day, they got a majority of the Republicans both in the House and in the Senate. So that's the difference. We don't get to put off the hard decisions in the state of Louisiana. If you want to invest in higher education, if you want to invest in healthcare, roads and bridges, you actually have to sit down and make hard decisions today. We were able to do that through my leadership. And the state is no longer deep in the ditch. And let me tell you, for years we were sending tax dollars to Washington so that 30 other states got the benefit and their working poor got health insurance while ours went without, and we paid the price for it. So bringing our federal tax dollars home for Louisianans is exactly the right thing to do.
Her question, Andrea's question, is about what other areas other than education and healthcare would be fertile for cutting if reductions are necessary in state government. I think you're first.
Thank you for the question. You know, the fact of the matter is we do have a lot of constitutional dedications, but these are dedications that more than 2/3 of the legislature at some point thought were in order, and the Louisiana people also voted to make sure that they were protected. And it's not like if you free those dedications, you're not going to spend those monies. You know, for example, the biggest one is K through 12 education. I don't propose reducing our investment in K through 12 education. But the good news is today we are funding education, $200 million more than last year. So we actually are doing better. We're fully funding TOPS. Go grants funded at the highest level ever. And so we didn't need to make structural changes in order to tend to our business. We just needed to tend to our business. And we were able to get that done, and I'm proud of the hard work. And look, it took a little longer than it needed to. There were a couple more sessions than we should have had to have had. But at the end of the day, we got the work done. We are funding our government, and we are not cutting education.
Well, we started out with a deficit, and I don't quite understand that because we're supposed to have a balanced budget. We started out at $1.9 billion. It took 5 sessions to get that down to several hundred million, and now we wind up with several $100 million surplus. But that's what we have here. We threatened to throw elderly out of nursing homes. We threatened LSU football, all those things. That doesn't work. What we need is a constitutional convention, folks. We can't keep going down, kicking the can down the road. They're going to keep raising tax here, lowering tax there. We need to do something different. It's going to take to get us a real constitution, not a book of statutes. And politicians are going to play with that forever. You need somebody from the outside, someone who has the courage, and someone who's not beholden to special interest, to go and make a sea change for our state. And I wouldn't be not running if it wouldn't be for that. We have to have a constitutional convention to change the way we operate. And so you, the people who elect the legislators, can go do their job. Right now they control 11%. They need to have control to do their job when you elect them.
It is to the point in our Constitution that we can only cut health care and education, and that is a shame. Look, we have an opportunity here next year with a conservative governor or a supermajority in the House to move this fiscal football in the right direction, where education, for once, will take top priority. Now, I'm not opposed to a constitutional convention either, but you know, let's do it the right way. Let me lead with a good supermajority, and we can do fiscal reform. And you have to be careful if you open up that entire Constitution, because there's no such thing as a limited constitutional convention right now. Then you put things on the chopping block like protecting the unborn, early childhood education, those things that we in this room consider important. So, got to be done in the right way. If you do it the wrong way, then you're going to mess up.
Lanny asks if local governments should have control of their destinies through the ITEP program. And I think Congressman Abraham is first.
Well, absolutely, local government should have control of their local environments, but having control of ITEP specifically, you see what it's done. It's driven large companies out of the state, and they're not coming back unless they have that predictability, they have that certainty. Look, these are companies that plan not 6 months, not a year, 5, 10, 20 years down the road. And if you take away that predictability, that certainty, you see what's happened. They're gone. That's why we have no jobs. That's why we're the only state in the country that has lost jobs. So look, the local people, they need local control of their local environment. And as governor, I promise you, they will get it in a various form, in many forms, but they will have control. Thank you.
The congressman's going around the state saying the first day he's going to reverse the ITIP, put it back to where it was. Now he just walked around. That's how a politician talks out of both sides. You know, what I'm going to do is what we should have done to start with. The governor didn't even involve the locals. He didn't involve the manufacturing, hundreds of thousands of jobs. He just issued executive order, threw it in chaos. What I'm going to do is bring all the people together, job creators, the locals together, and sit down and come up with a plan that everyone can live with, because they do have to have a say-so in it. But we have to have a predictability, and we have to have fairness in what we do. And I'm going to put it back into the economic development so they can go out and recruit. And so the locals will have their say-so, and they will make sure that they're protected as well. All of them are going to agree on what has to be done, and we're going to put it back where it belongs so we can go out and recruit jobs for Louisiana. Again, jobs for Louisiana.
You know, you're entitled to your opinion, as misinformed as you want it to be, but you're not entitled to your facts. I had multiple meetings with local elected officials and with business and industry before I made any changes, and I continue to meet with them on a routine basis. Look, the fact of the matter is, in my term as governor, the capital expenditures associated with ITEP applications that have been approved exceed $100 billion, more than twice what they were under Bobby Jindal's last 4 years as governor. So this idea that it's broken and it's not working is just belied totally by the facts. I will not go back to 100 cents on the dollar, because we don't need to be at 100 cents on the dollar in order to be competitive, as evidenced by the fact that our program continues to grow. Locals will keep their seat at the table because every dollar being exempted would otherwise go to local government. And we will continue to tie the ITEP approvals to jobs created or to a compelling case of jobs retained. Those things just make sense, and they are working for the state of Louisiana.
Questions about human trafficking? And Mike is asking regarding human trafficking and the choice issue as well. Governor?
Quite frankly, from where I was, I had a hard time both hearing and understanding the question. I know that human trafficking is a huge issue, and we spend a lot of time, we put a lot of focus, a lot of effort into this issue. It's a big deal around the world, around this country, and in Louisiana. We have had international summits in Louisiana since I've been governor, national summits and multiple regional summits all across the state of Louisiana to bring awareness to this issue. One of the things that we have done is we've created a home, the only of its kind in the country, on state property for specifically female teenage victims of human trafficking, so that they can be identified, rescued, and restored. And if those individuals do come into that home while they're pregnant, and I think that was part of what you were talking about, they actually get to have that baby and keep that baby in the home with them because of a license that we were able to issue both by DCFS and the Louisiana Department of Health. So this is a big issue, and it's something that Louisiana is actually leading the country on. And thanks to Senator Ronnie Johns, by the way.
Look, let me tell you very simply. You know, I've always supported President Trump. I've never asked him to drop out of the race against Hillary Clinton. So I'm going to work with this president again to strengthen our immigration, to build a wall, do away with sanctuary cities, and go after these gangs that you're talking about that are doing these incredible things against our children and young people. But on the other side, I want to go back a little bit as far as the ITIP. The governor said he spoke to everyone. The president of the manufacturers said he had a meeting with the governor the day before he issued executive order, never mentioned it. I talked to the school board presidents. They had never heard about it. I talked to the Sheriff's Association. They had never heard about it. And not until it came out and caused chaos did the governor backtrack and started saying, you know, I better do this a different way. I better get everybody together and let's talk about this ITIP. And then they revised it 3 times. That's not what you do in business. You plan these things and you get everybody at the table to start with, not reaction. Thank you.
I've actually worked with our great president on the federal level with this sex trafficking. It is horrific, it is wrong, and I have voted to stop it at every level that it exists. Now, there's also, I heard something about choice. There's a false narrative put out by my opponent that I am not pro-choice. Let me clarify that. Life begins at conception. I am against abortion, including rape and incest. If there is a issue with the mother's health in the third trimester, the way to solve that problem as a physician, I can tell you, is deliver the baby. So I know it's a campaign year. I know things are being thrown around that aren't true, but that's where we stand on choice. That's where we stand on sex trafficking. And also, let me clarify, because it was misstated too, I will reverse Governor John Bell's ITEP changes on day one.
My question was, why is there information not in the annual report that we gave?
Each candidate has a chance for final remarks, 1 minute, and we started with Congressman Abraham and then went to the governor and then to Mr. Risponi, so it will go in reverse order this time with Eddie Risponi beginning.
Again, thank y'all for having me. This is all new to me. I'm an outsider. I'm a business person. I'm someone who never had ran for office before, but it got to the point that the politicians, we're still last, folks. We're last in this country. We have to do something different, and it starts by electing a different kind of governor. An outsider, a conservative, someone with serious business skills, someone that's not beholden to special interests, and someone that has the backbone to go up against the status quo and turn this state around. We should be #1 in the South when it comes to jobs and opportunities. Let's elect someone that knows how to create jobs, thousands of jobs, and work with every sector of the economy to do that, and knows how to fill those jobs with Louisiana citizens. It's not that complicated. We just have to do something different if we expect different outcomes. Thank you for listening, and thank you for having us here today.
Well, again, thank you for having us also. Look, what you've seen is that, look, I just have fundamental differences with the governor here. He wants to put more money in the taxpayer government bureaucracy. I want to put more money in the taxpayer's pocket. And that's where we just mainly differ a lot. His solution, taxes, taxes, taxes. My solution, more jobs, more freedom, less tax. We do have to rebuild infrastructure. We do have to invest in our children, and we do have to protect the most vulnerable of our society. So we're going to get this pension reform right. We're going to get this prison reform right, and we are going to make Louisiana safer. We are going to let Louisiana win. Help is on the way.
Look, I know facts are stubborn. It's just the way it is. We have the largest economy in the history of our state today, and it is growing faster than the national average. In fact, #10 in the country, the #1 growing economy in the southeast United States. Unemployment is 2 percentage points lower than I became governor. The deficits that crippled our state so long are gone. They've been replaced with surpluses. And this happened because of bipartisanship. The hard work that was necessary to right this ship by bringing Republicans and Democrats and independents together to do the hard work by putting Louisiana first, not party. And if we will just resist the urge to become Washington, D.C., which is what I'm hearing a lot of over here, our best days are ahead of us. I have never been more optimistic about our state than I am right now. I am bullish on our future. We've come too far. We're not going to turn back. The people of Louisiana won't stand for it. So I'm asking for the support of the people of Louisiana. Give me your vote. You'll get another 4 years of good, hard work and progress.
We have two politicians, and you have an outsider, a conservative, but no one has created the jobs I've created. over the 40 years. No one has worked with job creators like I understand what regulations, taxes, all those things, how they affect job creators. And I can fix those things and work with people to fix them. And no one has ever run for governor has filled jobs with Louisiana citizens I have. I understand the education process, the training process, all of that, what it takes to fill those jobs. So that's the big difference. An outsider, not beholden to special interests, someone that can go up against the status quo and make the changes we need. It's pretty obvious. Politicians have had it for decades. It's time to do something different if we want a different outcome.
All I want is to make Louisiana win for once in the last, several years. We need to be top tier. We've got more oil and gas resources. We've got more agricultural than almost any state in the nation. But again, we're dead last. We're Louisiana. We're better than that. We need to be number one, just like the Saints.
The state's doing much better. The people of Louisiana know it. The deficits are gone. They've been replaced by surpluses. We have the biggest economy in the history of our state. We have the most personal income in the history of our state, both of which are growing faster than the national average. Unemployment is at an 11-year low, 4.3%, more than 2 percentage points lower than when I became governor. And so we're just doing much better. We're investing in our critical priorities. The first teacher pay raise in 10 years. Net new investment for higher education, first time in a decade. We're making sure that early childhood education is funded better. And by the way, the total increase in funding this year relative to last year is 1% state general fund. So it just indicates what you can do when you work together, when you put Louisiana first, when you're not so ideologically rigid and partisan that you're incapable of actually bringing people together. And that's why the people of Louisiana, I believe, feel good about what's happening in the state today, and that's why we're going to win on October the 12th.